Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charnley. This is another Cumbrian church in what is informally being referred to as Pastor Charnley's country churches. This is the church of St Michael's, Brough. Now Brough is an ancient settlement. There's a Roman fort here, connected as so many were with Hadrian's Wall up here north. There are a few relics of it to be found. The site is partially occupied today by a medieval castle, or ruins of a medieval castle. And of course, when the castle was built in the first built in the Norman era, then the church was built too. And there's a few Norman remains to be seen here. This is one of these long, low Cumbrian churches. And as you can see, it's very, very long. You can see just behind me the stone pulpit. Now, normally I moan about stone pulpits because stone pulpits are generally awful Victorian things. This is a 17th century stone pulpit, and so it's very interesting. The font also is 17th century. We'll have a look around and see what's to see. While the light holds, it is a bit after, well, just about 4 o'clock on an early spring day, so it's starting to lose the light, but we've still got a fair amount, so let's have a look around. We start off here in the tower, and this is because of this inscription here. This is the Brough stone. This is inscribed with, well, the writing is in Greek, and it's the remains of a Roman tombstone, a Roman memorial. I'm not quite sure what it says. It's all rather eroded, but it's further evidence of the Roman fort that used to stand here. You can hear the echo. We're in the bottom of the tower here, and there's a bit of an echo down here. So here we have the doorway, so we shall move through it. And there is the font. You can see it's a nice little font. So that not medieval, because the Middle Ages they always made much bigger fonts. You can see the wall here has a batter. It's not leaning outwards. It is thicker at the bottom than at the top, and that's a good indication of a sort of 12th century date. That is the oldest part of the church. The doorway, we shall see that shortly actually, in that wall is itself Norman, so 12th century as well. So we'll just have a little peep outside into the porch. Nice little porch here. You can just see the big graveyard outside. So here's the porch. Couple of bits of medieval gravestone, and here I can see Kaiser in Latin. And again, it looks like another piece of Roman memorial. But here is the Norman doorway, and you can see here these heads around it. They're often referred to as beak heads, but these don't have beaks on the whole. They're human heads. The columns here have been replaced. That's quite common. They very often were pinched or otherwise removed or worn away. There's a nice arcade there. It's a bit of 13th century there, but it looks mostly 14th century. And we proceed slowly up towards the chancel and towards this great big stone pulpit, which has the date 1624 on it. Now that's very unusual for stone pulpits, because generally the 17th century pulpits are wooden, but here someone's decided to make it out of stone. And it's a reminder that stone pulpits are not completely Victorian monstrosity, but this is quite an interesting, bit rough and ready, and it doesn't have all the kind of frills that the Victorians like to put on it, thankfully. There is here the remains of a medieval tomb recess by the look of things, and there evidence of a side chapel. There would have been several side chapels. Golly, that is one big muscular eagle lectern, isn't it? No one's going to be pinching that one anytime soon, thankfully. The reredos is made of 17th century panelling, and you've got a very nice, very, very nice set of communion rails dated, 1704. All very splendid, all very nice. Reverend Lancelot Bellis, AM, at the top there. So that is this. Very, very magnificent. And it's quite normal to have these memorials for the clergy at the East End here, formerly a fellow of Queen's College, back in those days being a fellow of an Oxford or Cambridge college for that matter meant you had to remain unmarried, so if a clerical fellow married they arranged to find him a living. And this little window here was originally an external squint, which allowed people to see the elevation of the host. I mean, whether it was originally external or whether at some point there was a side chapel there, because the idea was that you could have your clergy at the two altars, coordinate the elevation of the host so they both do it at the same time, which would make it a bit more impressive. So, yeah, it's a lovely, lovely church here. And I do like these rails, I mean, the communion rails, 1704. So there we have it. And so here we are outside at Brough, and you can see this nice solid 15th century tower here, and this nice long church. And the Norman bit basically is the nave, and I'm not sure how, I think it's, no, I can see actually, it's the last bay of the nave is later, so it's been extended eastwards, as was often the case, and also extended westwards when they whacked the tower on. So it would originally have been very, very low, and even the tower isn't that tall. So that's the outside. We'll have a look around and see what we can see. There's a nice Norman window I can see over there, so have a look at that. And so here we go. We'll just do a pan over the church. There we are, East End, West End, and you can see that last bay with the one window on top of another, the double stacked windows. That is a later addition. There you can see a line in the wall that would indicate that. But the original bit, you see that window, that round-headed window there at the West End, that is a Norman window, original Norman window. Now here is the churchyard cross. We've spoken about churchyard crosses before, that in the Middle Ages people didn't have individual gravestones. It's not like it is today. I mean, look at that, surrounded by daffodils. In the Middle Ages, it wasn't like today where people have individual gravestones or family gravestones, but rather you'd have a temporary marker that would decay, and you'd have one cross for everybody, and this is the base. Many, many churchyard crosses have perished, but many more survive, in part like this one, a bit battered, and you can see someone has stuck a rather pathetic sundial on top of it, like you do. And so here's the chancel, nice bit of perpendicular there, these very late medieval. That is a really rather florid gravestone. You can see there's the old rectory down the bottom there. Big house, because the rector was a gentleman, and so he needed to have a house that fitted his status as a gentleman. That's just the way they did things back then. Now we can just see over there the ruins of the castle. We can say, well, that shouldn't have been how it was. Well, it was how it was. When we deal with history, we have to deal with history as it was, rather than as we would like it to have been. The north side is just not all that interesting, but we'll have a little look down it, I suppose. And then that will be that. So it is a very interesting structure here. You've got your north aisle, single aisle, just the north aisle, no south aisle, no. But you can see that the ground slopes away on the south side, so it wouldn't make any sense to have a south aisle. So there we have it. We are the north side. The north door is the main entrance these days, because it's the one that faces towards the village, as opposed to the one that faces away from the village. So there we have it, really. St Michael's, Brough. I'll say And so there we have it, St Michael's Brough, a very impressive example of a Cumbrian church. It's suspected to be the biggest church that we see in Cumbria, because concentrating on these country churches, Cumbria is a very upland area, and so most of the churches are small, whereas this is quite big, because you've got the castle, because it's a church for an important family, and it's a relatively large settlement, well, big parish as well. It stretches quite some way. So there we have it. Well, thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until the next time.